All right, let's talk about some other hypothetical trades the Cavs can make. All 4 of these deals, Bull, get the Cavs under the second apron, and in my opinion, make them better.
All right.
All 4.
I'm open-minded to them then.
Or at least 3 of them for sure make them better. One of them we could argue back and forth.
All right,
but
we'll argue back and
They
forth.
all get them under the second apron, which I do believe
Gotcha.
is crucial to any moves they make today.
Okay.
You guys tell me if you guys would do this. The first deal involves the Milwaukee Bucks, but it does not involve Giannis Antetokounmpo.
What a tease that would be.
Bobby Portis Jr.
It is Max
Oh, yeah, you've
Strus
been obsessed with him
and
lately.
Larry Nance Jr. for Bobby Portis.
Would I
Cavs
do
save
that
enough
deal?
money to get under the second apron in this scenario. Bobby Portis could be their third big, shoots
He's
well
a
enough to play.
defender rebounder, isn't he?
Three-point
He's
shooter,
a three-point shooter. I'd do that
big
deal.
man,
Yeah.
solid rebounder, tough as hell. Don't want to mess with him. He's the one that
Defensive player.
Yes, I take. He's
average
scrappy.
defensive player.
All right.
Scrappy.
Yeah, he's a pain in the neck, right?
Yeah, he punched the team in practice.
I like that. I like that.
Give me. Yep, I take that.
I like that. All right. I mean, they're giving up nothing.
Strus isn't nothing.
They gave
Strus
up,
isn't
giving up a
nothing.
player who hasn't played.
He's
this
been
season,
hurt.
and Larry
Guys, let's stop it.
Jason.
If Max Strus was black, he'd be in the G League. Come on. we
would
know
you
this.
Oh, shut up.
Stop.
We know this. Let's go.
Anyway,
He was a starting 2-guard on an NBA Finals team.
Nah, he was along for the ride. You know that. I'm so talking out my ass.
You really are. Like,
That's an outrage.
You
That might
are-
be one of the
Lighten
dumb-
up. I'm having some fun. Go ahead.
So you
know,
take
said
it
there's
the deal.
5 dumb things you said.
Of course I would do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would do it too.
Yeah.
And Bobby Portis, by the way, Steve, you want to take his stats? Jalen Tyson leads the NBA in three-point percentage right now. Sam Merrill's third. You know who's fourth?
Bobby
Bobby
Portis.
Portis Jr.
Well,
I think he can play alongside Mobley. I think he can play alongside Allen. Not a terrific rim protector, but a veteran, savvy guy that knows where to be, knows how to position himself properly. And
Who was the old player? Portis. There was another Portis back in the day.
Clinton?
Clinton Portis for the
Football. I thought there was
Yeah.
another basketball
Clinton Portis? Oh.
Yeah.
They wouldn't. Milwaukee would never do that though.
Why not?
What do you mean? Why not? That's literally their second best player.
Well, if they're rebuilding and they want to,
well, if they're keeping Giannis, they're not
Yeah.
rebuilding yet.
Well, but they'd be
They
they're
keep-
going to trade him at the end of the year probably.
No, they're not.
Who?
If they don't trade Giannis now, they'll probably trade him in the
It's
offseason.
probably a summer
Yeah.
trade. Yeah.
So how does that help the Bucks?
the Bucks are in no man's land.
Yeah.
You need as much shooting as possible around Giannis. When healthy, Strus is a very good movement shooter. He fits into Doc Rivers' offensive
right.
system.
Don't they want to tank at this point? Although
They don't have their own picks, so tanking
Oh.
for them is irrelevant.
I
But
just don't understand why you would get rid
I don't know why they would do
Why
that.
would you get Max Strus when you just said Bobby Portis is fourth in 3-point shooting? Why would you get Max Strus who hasn't played? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
'Cause you
Mike,
need guys on the
I don't know,
perimeter.
man.
You need guys on the perimeter. I'm not listen. That's my pipe dream. That's
Yeah,
my pipe
all
dream
right.
trade today. All right, next one, Steve. This is you got it ready. Jared Allen and Indiana. There was a lot of smoke between the two teams yesterday. This one I'm not sure makes the Cavs better for what it's worth. I think this is a neutral at best. However, it gets you off Jared Allen's contract, which is getting up to $30 million per year over the next 3. Gets you under the apron and nets you a first-round pick in 2027. It'd be Obi Toppin and his expiring contract.
Yeah.
Jay Huff, who, Bull, I know you don't know who Jay Huff is.
No clue.
Jay Huff is an underrated center
All right.
and a future first
Like to.
for Allen and for Larry Nance Jr. to get you off
Obi
of that.
Toppin's a
second
nice
apron.
player, right? He's a good role player.
He's a
Isn't
good role player, third big, expiring contract.
I declined it.
The Knicks drafted him high, didn't they?
I think
Yeah.
he was 2 picks after Okoro, 7th
Yeah.
overall.
I wouldn't take that.
They both stink. Well, stink is not fair. You would do it,
No.
Jason?
I'm not a huge Allen fan, but I
Yeah.
probably would decline this.
All right.
This is a deal for future flexibility more than making your team right now.
Yeah, you
better.
got to make your team
So-
better, I think.
That's what I said. This one was the one that I'm not sure if it
All
necessarily
right, not sure.
made you better, but that would get you under the second apron. You would have the 2 bigs to replace
Right.
Allen with and a future first that you could use in trades. We give the Cavs 4 first-round picks to possibly trade this summer as opposed to 2 currently or 3 if they get under the second apron. All right, the next one. This is the one I'm not sure Dallas would do. But Max Strus and Tyrese Proctor for Najee Marshall. Now, Bull, there's no chance in hell you know who Najee Marshall is.
Why are you calling me out all the time?
Because I said there's going to be
Messed
2
up,
players
Mike.
in this that you were not
I
going to
have
know.
no idea who Najee Marshall is. At least I have the guts to admit that.
Najee Marshall is awesome, one of my favorite wings in basketball. He's playing so much better of late. 6'6", 6'7". He's not a true 4, but he can play a little bigger. He
Why
can
would the
score
Mavs do this trade?
because they just blew up their entire roster. They just traded Anthony Davis. They have so many guys that fit the Najee Marshall role. P.J. Washington,
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg. There's just a plethora of guys in that role and not a ton of shooting. If you want to put more shooting and guys that don't need the ball as much as a Najee around Cooper Flagg, Strus obviously fits that better moving forward. I think Marshall's the best player in the deal. But once again, just looking for deals that in theory work, get the Cavs under the second apron.
Yeah.
And if they could somehow swing Najee Marshall, we're doing backflips.
I would do it. I just like the first trade. I don't see the appeal to the other team.
Dallas in tank mode.
But who
is we trading for this?
Why would they just give away a player? It feels like Max Strus is not part of anybody's future, is he?
Next year is an expiring contract, though.
Okay.
So it is a shorter deal. You get off that money, then you have long-term.
Right,
Najee
okay.
Who was the two that we trade? Strus and who?
Tyrese Proctor in this. So you
yeah.
get a young guy with some upside.
Tyrese Proctor is like Darius Garland to me. I ain't trading them.
You're going to turn down a deal because of Tyrese Proctor.
That's correct.
All right, let's see the next one.
Jason, what'd you think of that one?
Do you think they would make that?
I see
you
some
think
value.
the other Dallas would make that trade?
No, I would if I was the Cavs. I would make that.
Yeah.
I don't think Dallas would make that.
All right.
All right, this last one, boy. I made this one just for you.
Okay.
We started the season by saying the Cavs needed some bullies, some tough guys, some guys that aren't afraid
Dylan
to
Brooks?
mix it up. No, it's not Dylan Brooks. So I gave you the Bobby Portis
Draymond
idea.
Green.
Oh, that would be cool.
It is Draymond Green.
Oh my God.
It is now, this is not realistic. Full disclosure, this one, if
No
this happened
chance.
today, I would be beyond shocked. The other three, I could see at least some semblance of realisticness.
Yeah.
This one, just for fun. Need a third team to help facilitate it. In this scenario, the Nets are the facilitators
They got to
here.
trade Merrill.
The Cavs get Draymond Green. The Warriors finally get a center to pair up with Steph Curry
They
and
just-
another shooter to become the second splash brother
They got
in
whatchamacallit.
Golden State. Sam Merrill and Jared Allen to the Warriors. And then Larry Nance, Trace Jackson Davis, and Guy Santos to the Nets, plus some future draft capital just to help facilitate the deal. Bo, this one's not realistic.
Yeah.
But would you do it?
Did you make this early?
Yeah. I would do that.
You made this had to be before like 2 hours ago, right?
Why?
Because Trace Jackson Davis got traded already.
When?
Oh, is he part of the Kristaps deal?
I'm not sure. I just know.
I made this last night.
I know 100% he got traded.
Kristaps
And
got traded to the
and
Warriors
Kristaps
last
got
night.
traded to the Warriors. I don't remember.
What do you
where
think
he
of that
went.
trade, Jason?
He went for
No.
like a
Draymond
second
Green?
round
No.
pick.
You
to
don't want
somewhere.
Draymond?
No.
Whatever it is,
He's
he's
too much
just
of
a
a
salary
cancer?
filler. You could fill
He's
that
not a
salary slot
cancer.
with somebody else.
I just think I just wouldn't do it.
You just wouldn't do it. All right. So what trade do we like the most? The first and third didn't seem realistic for the other team.
I don't get why you don't think the Bobby Portis thing's realistic. He's been in trade
Jason,
rumors.
you think that
he's
trade's
been in
realistic?
trade rumors
You
for the
think
last
Bucks would
month
do
and
that?
a half.
I don't think you can. Yeah, Milwaukee's in such a tenuous spot right now with
Yeah.
Giannis. If you keep him, I don't think you can make that trade.
He got traded. Trace Jackson Davis got traded to Toronto.
Well, you could add any minimum salary
Whatever,
there to
yeah,
make that
it's
work.
not-
That
doesn't
was
matter.
just a throw-in.
I mean, that would be my favorite right
Yeah,
there.
we'd like that, but
I thought that one's the least
I think
realistic by far.
the Marshall
I just don't
one is the
understand
most
why the Bucks
realistic.
would just give away a good player.
They're not. You think Max Strus is literally nothing.
Not that
Max
it's
Strus is a
nothing,
better
but
player than
he's
Bobby
not-
Portis Jr.
How old is Max Strus?
He's younger than Bobby. Max Strus is better than Bobby Portis Jr.
He is?
He's better than Bobby Portis Jr. Yes.
But he's not. I don't know. Wouldn't you rather trade Bobby Portis for draft picks?
It depends on what you're trying to do if you're Milwaukee.
I mean, if they're probably going to trade Giannis, they got to start over. I just feel like Max Strus is not helping you start over.
Is Bobby Portis Jr. helping you? start
No,
over?
but I'm saying draft picks.
I'm trying to think.
Guys don't have a draft pick, so
Who's our other four right now?
they don't have a third big. Dean Wade's the backup big right now, which is why I think the Cavs need to find some way
Yeah.
to get another big before the end of today's trade deadline, so that they actually can rely on somebody in the playoffs without having to put all their eggs in the Dean Wade basket
Yeah.
for a fourth straight year.
By the way, it's weird how, in baseball, there's a lot of guys who break news. Not a lot, but there's. I mean, I know. What's his name from Cleveland? Jeff Passan. He's the leader, but there's a number of guys who break news. Football, there's certainly a number of guys. In basketball now, it's only Shams.
It's Shams. Yeah.
Nobody else ever breaks a story. Why does he get everything?
Crispy Hayes does sometimes. Chris Hayes.
Why not Jason Lloyd?
I don't want that job.
Yeah, like you never have a
It's
breath.
miserable.
You don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be-
yeah.
you don't want to be
But
on your
why is
phone
there
all
nobody
the
else
time?
now? What's his name retired, and that's it. Now Shams gets everybody.
Why is he the only one?
Yeah.
Because that's a good question.
You know, baseball and football have like 6 or 7 guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Woj retired.
Because the NBA, it's just sort of, it was always.
How did it become him? You know, and nobody else. I'm just fascinated by that.
Well, Shams works his rear end off.
Yeah.
He has a lot of agents and, like, you want me to pull back the curtain on the list?
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Shams came up with all of the agents and all the shoe guys, and Woj had a lot of owners.
Okay.
And not to say Shams doesn't have owners.
Right.
But
he's got the player side.
he came up with the agents, the Nike reps.
Smart.
And Woj does too. Woj did too to an extent,
Yeah.
but Woj also had a lot of on the ownership side. And why is there no one else? Honestly, it's a grind.
Yeah.
And I don't know that guys want to commit to that.
Yeah.
All the time. And there are other guys get little bits and pieces
Yeah.
here and there. It is an unbelievable. It takes an unbelievable toll on your life.
Yeah,
It
I got
is
to imagine.
all you do.
Like Schefter and
It's-
Rappaport,
it is-
every 2 seconds, Heyman and all these baseball guys. And the local reporters rarely break stories anymore.
Because
in baseball, you'll see it once in a while.
yeah,
It's rare in the other 2 sports.
because they are conditioned to go to the national guys.
Yeah.
Because part of it is also they don't want to play favorites with the locals,
Right,
and
yeah.
give it to one and not another.
Right, yeah.
So they just give it to the national guys.
Yeah.
I know that that's like a big point with fans and readers is like, well, the writers here suck because nobody
Right.
breaks any
That
stories.
happens
It's
in
all
every
an ad.
market.
It's every market.
Yeah.
And because the agents, usually it comes from the agents too.
Right.
And the agents are more tied in with the national writers than they are the local
Right,
writers.
right.
You can have relationships with agents as a local writer.
Yeah.
But their strongest relationships
Right.
are with the national
It's
writers.
just weird how, especially comparing to baseball, because football is its own world, but baseball and basketball are similar level, and yet in baseball there's a number
There's a
of
ton of
guys.
them, yeah.
But in basketball
And it's
there's only
also
one.
and in baseball it's a lot of NBA, it's a lot of younger media. Baseball's
that's
a lot
true.
of older.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the relationships are
Although
longer.
Passan of the newsbreakers is probably the youngest.
Yeah. But like
There's some up and comers.
Heyman's been around forever.
Yeah,
Rosenthal's been around
Rosenthal,
forever.
yeah.
Nightingale's been around. These guys have been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
You don't really have that in the NBA.
No,
it's
that's true.
all the NBA is a. I remember. I think it says I was in Vegas for summer league.
Yeah.
And I remember looking around at our company. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm old. When did this happen? Because it wasn't that long ago. Like I was the young hip
Yeah.
writer guy.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
More like 30 years ago.
Shut up.
Tyvis.
Last thing on the deadline, we'll get back to Keon Ellis and Schroeder's debuts a little later in the show.
Yeah.
We see a lot of comments on like why are you trying to trade Max Strus. The Cavs have a plethora of guys on the wing now. These are just the guards / wings that fit
You
into
need a big man. You need another big man.
Exactly. So these are the Harden, Mitchell, Schroeder, Merrill, Keon Ellis, Jalen Tyson, and then Max Strus. That's 8. You're not playing 8 guys at that
No.
position. Someone's getting cut out of the
Strus
rotation
has lost
somewhere.
his spot, really.
And you just don't know how healthy he's going to be
Right.
when he gets back. So he's kind of the odd man out for the time being,
Yeah.
which is why I think he's the most likely dude to get traded today to open up other possibilities.
Right.
And that's why, like I said, was looking at the
So it's going to be
length
probably
of Bobby
him,
Porter
and if they do make a trade, it's going to be him and Nance for one player.
or him and Craig Porter Jr.
Or
for
him
one
and Craig
player,
Porter
or
Jr.
something like that for a player. That's
Unless
my
they do
expectation.
something blockbuster.
Is him
Yes.
alone enough to get them under the apron?
Depends on who you get back.
Oh, okay.
It just
But
depends
also,
on the
he's
money
not
coming back.
he's not one of these guys that has no value.
I agree.
Like he has Bull's poo-pooing on him. Like
Well,
he has
but
real
he's been
value.
hurt all
I mean,
year.
he's a knockdown shooter.
But he's still. What's his contract? What's he making?
Next year 16, but he's expiring next year.
Yeah.
What's he making this year?
16. It's 16 for 4 years.
That's more than I thought. But he's still. I still think that like Darius was a distressed asset. There was no value
Yeah.
there, and I think you saw that play out. We've been saying that for a while. Like
Yeah.
guys, there's no value on Darius
Right.
because of all the injuries and everything else. And Max
And
has
this-
that too.
Yeah.
But not to the extent. And Max is a little bit bigger. Darius doesn't play lick of defense.
Yeah.
So you had 2 distressed assets in that
Right.
deal: Harden and Darius.
The Cavs' number one goal today should be to get Giannis. And then if that doesn't work, their number one goal should be to get under the second apron and
big.
find a way to get a backup big.
Yes.
And
On the
also,
same
if they
page.
get out of the apron, they are now players on the buyout market. So that
Okay,
if there's
yeah.
buyout guys,
Yeah.
Oh, that's worth mentioning. They can't buy anyone out as a second apron team. Or they
Right.
can't bring in a buyout
Right.
guy as a second apron team. So
By the way, even if they do end up trading Mobley for Giannis today, which would be amazing, they still need a backup big man.
yeah. Yeah.
Especially because Giannis is now Mobley's injury prone too, but so is Giannis.
Yeah.
And that's
both
the
have-
thing, by the
they
way.
both have
If
calf
you're
injury.
worried about Giannis's injury, well, Mobley's been injury prone too.
They both have calf injuries.
Yeah.